want to show you how to make this adorable little Frankenstein cake. Now to start, I always measure my cake and then print out the picture the size I want it to be. That picture is linked in my link tree or in the description. Then I have a bunch of circle cutters and I just hold the cutters up to the picture and see which one is the right size. And then I'm going to cut a circle out of this green, clean that off, and then use the same cutter to cut a white circle. And I'm going to put that circle inside of the green after I smooth those edges. And then I'm just looking at the picture. So I'm taking another cutter and I'm making sure that it's the right size. And I want to line it up a little bit over to the left. You see how the purple part's a little to the left side. And then I'm cutting that out and using the same cutter to cut the purple out and putting that inside of the white. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the black. So I grab another cutter and you see it's a little offset to the left. So I use the same cutter to cut the black out and I'm putting that inside there. And then I found another little piping tip that's the same size of this little white accent in the eye. So I'm cutting that. Do you see how it's partially on the black, partially on the purple? And then I'm getting another circle cutter to cut out that green border. You see there's a thin green border around there. And I don't want that to fall apart. So I'm going to grab a cutting board and just slide that on there and carefully remove that so it doesn't stick. And I just want to take my fingers and smooth out the edges. I find that doing eyes like this is just so much better because you don't want to stack the fondant on top of each other. If it's all flush with each other, it looks a little more realistic. And then I just cut half a circle for this little eyelid here. And then I'm doing the same thing for the other eye. Now you could see the eye on the left is a little smaller than the eye on the right. Technically, you could do both the same size, but I wanted it to be a little wonky like the picture. So I'm using the same size cutter to cut a hole first and then to cut the color that is going inside of that hole, if that makes any sense. But just trying to make it look like the picture, get an even green border around this one, carefully put it onto the cutting board, and then cut half a circle to make the eyelid. And now I want to make the eyebrow, so I just laid this paper on top of the black fondant, used my pizza cutter to trace the lines because it's a little uneven, so I didn't want to use my ribbon cutter. And then I'm just cutting the edges off similar to the picture, and let's set that aside. Now I want to roll out this black fondant. This is going to be the hair. It's going on a 5-inch cake. I'm using a 9-inch cake pan. I turn it upside down to make the little mark, and then I cut that out, and I'm going to smooth my cuts. I got my cake out of the refrigerator. The icing is cold and hard, so I'm not going to mess it up when I do this. I'm getting a little Crisco on the top and a little bit on the side at the very top of the cake. I like to use Crisco for this because it's forgiving. I can move the fondant once I set it in place. If you use water, it's just going to stick right away. So I grab that circle that I cut out and I'm putting it on the top, and I need to smooth this out. Now it's going to be a little wrinkly at the bottom, but I'm going to cut this to the correct size. So it doesn't matter if it's wrinkled at the bottom. I just want it to be very flat as it's coming down the top of the cake. And then once that's done, just trying to refine this, making sure that there are no wrinkles up at the top inch of the cake, basically. You'll see why I have to do it this way as I start to cut the fondant away. And then I'm using my little pinch technique. This is how I get sharp edges on fondant. I go over this in a bunch of my videos. I'm not really pinching too hard, but it makes the edges a little sharper. And then I'm taking an X-Acto knife with a sharp blade and I'm cutting the little pieces of hair in this. So you could see why it doesn't matter that it's very wrinkly at the bottom because I'm cutting all of that fondant away. But again, remember this cake was just out of the refrigerator, so that icing is cold and hard, and I'm not going to mess up the icing as I do this. This is why I like to refrigerate all my cakes. So I'm just carefully cutting away all of these little sections to make points in the hair, and I'm trying to make it not perfect triangles. I'm doing it on different angles to make it look a little wonky, if you will. I just don't want them to be perfect triangles all the same size and the same length. I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. So I'm just working in little sections here. That's a sharp blade, and I don't want to cut it exactly against the cake because I don't want to mess it up. So I'm just like lifting it up a little bit and then cutting off the fondant. And then anytime you cut anything out of fondant, the fondant is going to be jagged. So I need to take my fingers and my tools and smooth out all of those jagged edges. Do you see how it's just not perfect? It just doesn't look clean. You need to take the time and smooth out the fondant to make it look nice and clean and pretty. And once that's done, I want to put the face on. I did store the eyes and the eyebrows in a Ziploc bag so they wouldn't dry out. I wanted to keep them pliable. I'm getting water on the back. I'm holding the picture up, and I saw that the hair was a little too long in the front. It was going to touch the eyes. So I want to cut a little bit more of this away. And again, look how jagged that is. I need to smooth out these edges and make it look nice and pretty before I continue the process. And now I can put the eyes on. I like to hold the other one up to make sure I'm getting it in the right position. So I'm going to stick the left one down, get some water behind the right one, and stick that one down. And then I want to put on those little eyelids. So I got some water behind it, and I put that down, and you could see that it's covering the hair. So I want to trim that again. So I'm just taking my X-Acto knife and trimming off that excess. And then again, I have to smooth my cuts. Do I even have to say it? And let's stick down the other eyelid and get some water behind the eyebrows and put them on. So again, I'm just looking at the picture, making sure I put everything on the correct angle. And I need to make the happy face. So I'm cutting a circle out of fondant and then another one just on the outside to have a really thin piece of fondant, lining it on the picture, making sure I cut it to size, get some water behind it, and stick that down. Now I need to make the little scars. So I have an icing bag with a tip number 1. It's some thin black American buttercream icing. I'm resting my elbow on that water bottle so it's elevated a little bit, and I'm just doing one long line and then 2 lines that are going across, and then on the other side I did 1 really long line and 3 cross lines. And here is the Frankenstein cake. How cute is he? You could do him on a tiered cake or just by himself. Here is the final finished cake that I made. It's so adorable. I didn't film this entire thing, but I have a video showing you how to do a 3D pumpkin cake topper. And I also filmed how to make this cute little ghost in 2D and 3D. And I do have a video showing you how to make the little 2-dimensional cat. And the links to those videos are either in the description or in my bio.